Hello, Aslam class. Welcome to your maths lesson for Friday, the 22nd of January. I'm inside today for your lesson because there's a lot of work going on outside, and all you'll hear is drilling and hammering and things like that. So I'm going to do my lesson from the comfort of my own living room today. Okay, so this week we've been, since Wednesday, we've been looking at area, and you've been getting used to the idea of area, understanding what area is. And yesterday we moved on to actually, from just using random sort of objects to help us find the area of different objects or different shapes. We moved on to actually making squares within them shapes and counting the squares to find the area of rectilinear objects. So we're going to continue our work on that for today. And I'm just going to share my screen so you can see it. And of course, we always start our maths lessons with some arithmetic. So here are your arithmetic questions for today. Give yourself no longer than 10 minutes to answer these questions, and then I will go through the answers. So you can pause this video now, and good luck. Okay, hopefully you've got all them questions done, and well done for doing that. We're going to go through the answers now together. So the first question is 4 times 9, which is 36. The second question is 5,432 plus 2,453, and our answer is 7,885. Today's date as a Roman numeral. Okay, so we've got if you have a look at the top, we need to make 22. So 22 is 2 x's and then 2 i's together, or 2 1's together. We've then got 1 on its own, and then 2021. 1,000 is represented by an M, so we need 2 M's. And then there are no hundreds, and then 21 is 2 x's and then a 1. So it should read XX11, then a dash, and then 1, and then another dash, and then MMXX1. The number in this sequence, it's going 23, 28, 33, 38. It's going up in 5s. So our next number is going to be 43. 12 times 7 is 84. 24 divided by 6 is 4. What is 400 divided by 10? It's 40. What is 2,000 meters in kilometers? So we then have to times our divide our 2,000 by 1,000, which gives us 2. What is 8:45 on a 24-hour clock? It should PM. It should look 20:45. And 72 divided by 6 is obviously 12. Well done for getting all them questions correct if you got them correct. Okay, so today we're going to be making can you make shapes using squares, and it's going to help us obviously with finding the area of different objects. So just to begin with, sorry that it didn't work in terms of thing. That's supposed to be different, not differ. So have a look at these shapes. Which one of these shapes is different, and can you explain why? I give you a minute or so you can pause the video here and you can find out which one of these shapes is different. Okay, hopefully you've had a good time to have a look at these. So most of us would look at this and think shape B here is the odd one out because it's not a sort of rectangle or a square like the others. But if we look closely and count the squares inside each of these shapes, we will find that shape A, shape B, shape C, and shape E all have 24 squares within inside the shape, meaning they all have an area of 24. Don't know what measurement it is in, so we could just say 24 for the moment. 24 squares. D, however, has an area of 25 squares, so D is the odd one out. Okay, so what we're going to do is, here is a question. Connor has 6 squares of paper. What different shapes can he make? So what you may need to do is to cut 6 squares of the same size, or use square Lego bricks if you've got them to help you out. And you're going to make as many different shapes as you can. So just to I'm going to quickly make my own. Now, if you want to, you can draw the squares out if you want to. It is important that you make them the same size, because if they're not the same size, then this task may not work properly. Okay. So I'm just doing this very quickly, but you would maybe want to take a bit more time. You may want to get an adult to help you cut the squares out. I'm sure you guys can all use scissors. And if you haven't got scissors and you haven't got the paper to do this, you can just simply draw them on a piece of paper. But you would need to make sure that the squares are all the same size. So I've cut out my 6 squares. Okay, I'm going to put my camera down so you can see. So what you need to do is try to make as many different shapes as you can using your 6 squares. So for example, I may decide to put one there, one there, one there, one there, one there, and one there. Okay, so that's one shape that I've done. Okay, I may then want to draw that down on my piece of paper. I could then move that one there. That's another shape that I've made. That one can go there. I could then maybe put this one here. Okay, and I've got a shape like that. So what your task is to try to create as many different shapes as you can using 6 squares. Okay, so you could have something that looks like that. Okay, you could have something that looks like that. You could have something that looks like that. So that's what your task is going to be. So you can pause the video now and you can try that out. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to do that, and well done for getting loads of combinations. Okay, there are quite a few that you could get. And here on the board that you can see are going to be some examples. So we can have 3 at the top there like that. You may have got some of these. I did this one to begin with, if you can remember. Okay, so lots and lots of different shapes, and these are just some examples. There may be more that you have got that are not on the screen, so well done for doing that. Now you can use you can cut out more squares to help you if you want to answer these 2 questions. So what you need to do, if you've got your whiteboards at home with the squares on the back of them, you can use these for them. What you need to do is simply draw a shape for question A that has an area of 7 squares, and for B you need to draw a shape that has an area of 13 squares. Good luck. Pause the video and answer them questions. Okay, well done for doing that. I'm going to just minimize my screen just a little bit because I need to make my pen thickness bigger. Now I'm just going to put a blob into the square, okay, just because it will be easier for me to do that. So you may have loads of different shapes as long as your squares are together. Okay, maybe it would be best if I actually draw the squares out. As long as your squares are together and they don't overlap, or they're not, there's no gaps in between them, it should work. So you may have one that looks like this, but there may be many different combinations. Okay, There's my square. What I'm going to do, I'm going to be very clever. I'm going to move it into the middle here, and I'm going to replicate. I'm going to infinitely clone it, so I can just drag them over. There we are. So I could have one square there. There's two. Notice that they're not overlapping. 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. Now, if I put this one here, this doesn't work because it needs to be part of the shape that I'm making, okay? So make sure that the squares are all connected some way or another. At least the square is connected to the shape, okay? So I'm going to put that one there. So there I've got an area of 7 squares. Okay, so just make sure that they're all together like that. And for the next one, I'm going to make one with 13 squares. So there's 1 square, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So there I've got all my squares are next to each other. There's none that are apart from the shapes. So there is a shape that has an area of 13 squares. Yours will probably look a lot more like mine because there's less squares to fill out on the box. But there we go. So hopefully you've been able to do that in your tasks. Okay, so your next question that we could have is use 6 sticky notes or square shapes. Make as many different rectilinear shapes with the squares as you can, and then draw your shape. So this is very similar to the task that we did up here. Okay, so you could give that a go again. You don't have to. Really, I think that one should have actually gone up there, but there we are. If you want to give that exercise a go again, please do. Maybe you could use more than 6. Maybe you could use 8 squares just to push yourself a little bit more. So your independent work for today, what you need to do, you need to draw 2 different shapes first, each with an area of 8 squares. The shapes need to be different, okay? They can't be the same shape, they need to be different. Question 2, part A, add squares to the shape here that you can see on the screen and make it into a square. So how many more squares are you going to need to add to make that into a square? You are not allowed to move any of these squares about, so you need to add squares to it, okay? So type B, what is the area of the square that you've made? And C, how could you make a larger square? How many more squares would you need to add? And show your working. Okay, and then part 3, for more of the challenge for you guys, it's true or false questions. You need to read all these statements and you need to say whether they're true or false. Okay, so for question 1, I can't really give an answer because your answers may all be different when you've done this. So what you need to do is to take a picture and post that up onto Tapestry so I can have a look and mark it. For part A, you need to add squares to that shape. Okay, and if you added squares to that shape and turn it into a square, you would need to add 4 at the top, and then 3 down, and then 4 at the bottom. So your square would have 4 going up and 4 squares going across. Okay, so I should be seeing a square that has an area of 16 squares. Then how could you make a larger square? How many more squares do you need to add? So if I then wanted to make a larger square, I'd need to make sure that I had 5 going across the top and 5 going across the bottom, and then fill in the space in between. So how many would you need to add to make another square? You would need to add another 9 squares. And then true or false. Part A, is it possible for 5 shapes to all look different but have the same area. That is true because you should have done that today with the 6 squares that you cut out. You must have created more than just 5 shapes, and they all look different and they all had the same area. If a carpet layer puts 25 carpet tiles in a square or lays them end to end to make a line, the square has a larger area. That is incorrect. Okay, that is false because he has 25 carpet tiles. Doesn't matter which way he arranges them. Okay, we've already explored that you can have a shape that is different but has the same area. So that one is false. Part C, a rectangle with a length of 9 square meters and a width of 3 square meters has an area of 27 meters squared. Again, that is true because if you imagine it, you've got 3 squares going across the top, and then you have 9 squares going down. So we've got 9 and we've got 3. Okay, and then if you filled up all the squares in between, you would get 27. And for those of you who may have worked out, multiplication does help with area with rectangles and with squares. So if you were to actually multiply the width and the length, you would get the space in between, you would get the whole area. There is a formula. It's A equals L times W, which is length times width, and that would give you the answer. So that one's true. And then for D, it is not possible to draw a square with an area of 36 centimeters squared on paper. That is actually false. It is true. You can draw a square with an area of 36 centimeters on squared paper. Because remember, we need to draw a square that has 36 dots, 36 squares inside. You can make a square because 36 is what we call a squared number, and a squared number is a number when you times it by itself, you get this squared number. So, for example, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 is a squared number. 4 times 4 is 16. So 16 is a squared number, and you can. The idea why it's called square number is because you can actually draw a square with it. Can't draw a square if you had an area of 18. It would have to be a rectangle. So squared numbers are special. So 36 is a squared number because 6 times 6 is equal to 36, which is a square number. So you can make a square. Okay, so there's your work for today. Any problems, any misconceptions you want to address with me, please leave a message on Teams and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. See you in the next video on Monday. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.